Now what I have here, plastic pipe, larger diameter plastic pipe turned into rings for detailing. Greebly, this goes under your sink to catch the sludge. Looks like the head of a mace. Looks like the head of a mace. And the cap looks like Rey's staff, so it's familiar. Looks very much like it's from the Star Wars universe. Pipe Greebly looks like an energy emitter. Looks like it's part of a lightsaber. This Hoover tubing part, so pipe connector for Hoover pipes. Activation switch, that's what that is. I have parts here to make the Star Wars version of a mace. Taking the concept of a medieval mace and turning it into a Star Wars weapon. It will look like a lightsaber, but with this on the end of it, painted to look like metal. And this is all the components I'm going to use to build it with. Right, all the components are now sandpapered and cleaned up. And I used the same kind of sandpaper that Brewster Cogburn likes to use, which is True Grit, obviously. This end piece, which is going to be the mace at the head of the weapon, has been hollowed out. It's all the components aside have been removed, so it's just hollow. This piece goes inside that. There's a hollow space in there, could be a weak spot. That's why I've cut out these. These rings of EVA foam will go onto this thing, and then they go inside there to help pad out the inside of it and make it stronger. So when it's being used for stage combat and fight scenes, it will be stronger on the inside, gives it strength and stability. Right, so I've got all these rings of EVA foam on there. This is the outer shell of the mace head, and that goes in there. That's going to be a really tight squeeze. That'll be a really tight fit, but it will work. Right, that was a very tight squeeze getting that in there, but that is now strong. And that's attached to the end of the weapon. I'll be able to withstand the stage combat of filmmaking and dueling, and it'll be nice and strong so it doesn't wobble around, it won't break or crack or anything like that. It's nicely padded on the entire inside with EVA foam. Alright, so that's the end cap, that's the base, well that's the head, the end of the head of the weapon. That's the end cap on there. And what I do is plastic pipe here, about 12 inches long. This will be wrapped in duct tape and plugged into there so it's a tight fit, so that this can then be attached to the shaft of the weapon. So that'll be a nice tight fit. Right, so this pipe now has duct tape wrapped around it multiple times. So when it fits inside there, it's a tight squeeze. And what I do is spray it with glue. So I spray glue onto there and then slot it into the shell of that and let that set. It'll be a nice tight fit, and it won't be going anywhere. It stops it from moving around. It will be permanently installed inside that, so it doesn't go anywhere. Right, so that's all sorted. That pipe is now installed inside the mace head. So when this shaft is installed into the shaft of the main body in exactly the same way, that will be wrapped in gaffer tape until it's a tight fit, and then sprayed with glue and then installed into the main body of the main shaft, and that becomes the mace head. This becomes the weapon. and it'll be a tight squeeze, and it'll be strong. It'll be able to withstand stage combat and dueling at conventions or filmmaking, and that's what it's made for. It's made for doing the stage combat. This is the weapon I completed during the lockdown. It's the Enfys Nest spear from Solo, my interpretation of it. See, I've used the exact same piece. It's the sludge trap that goes under your sink, and this is the club end of it. It's actually upside down. If I pan it down here, that's the blade of it. That's the energy emitter. So it's upside down right now. This is like the club, the back end of it, which is the club, and that's how I've installed it into the bodywork. So the shaft on the inside is wrapped in duct tape until it's a tight fit, then sprayed with glue and installed until it's set. And that's how I built this whole weapon. Now it's the right way up. You can see how I've installed that in there. And that's gaffer tape there. So that's that piece of pipe was wrapped in gaffer tape and then installed into there with glue in exactly the same way. But it might be a weak spot. That's only an inch and a half of material stuck in there. So that might be a weak spot, so this might break in the future, I don't know. I'll just have to hope that it doesn't break during the filmmaking process. It should be strong enough. Right, so that's the pommel end cap done in exactly the same way. I had to fill that with glue, wrap the end of that pipe in gaffer tape and just push it in there, and it's the whole lot was just filled with glue, and that's going to be left overnight. You can see the gaffer tape there. That will be trimmed with a knife, but that's done. So that pipe will be installed in the main shaft of the mace. And that's the end piece, that's like the base of the handle. It looks a bit like a lightsaber component. It resembles Rey's staff, the end of Rey's staff, kind of looks like that. That's why pieces like this come in handy. It looks like a piece of a Star Wars weapon, that's what I like about it. Right, so I've marked out on the shaft where everything's going to go. That's the energy emitter. It actually looks like a lightsaber energy emitter. And that's the activation switch. So this is going to be a two-handed weapon, and that's pretty much marked out where those components are going to go. Right, so there's the gaffer tape in place. It's already marked out, so I know exactly where it needed to go. My marks on the pipe were actually a bit wonky, so I double measured it again to make sure each grip is 4 inches long. So here's the energy emitter, so when that goes on there, that's been scrubbed with sandpaper already. If you scrub gaffer tape with sandpaper, it helps the glue stick better. So when that's sprayed with glue, then this will be slotted into place exactly where it needs to be, and the glue will be permanent and it will stay there permanently, so it won't be going anywhere. Right, so they're in place. I've marked out where the rings go. I've measured exactly, so the space between the rings is exactly the same. It's about 4 1/4 inches between each one, and there's only 2 of them. I only needed 2. They were difficult to cut out. I cut out lots of these rings from plastic pipe, and they weren't coming out in straight lines. I was going all wonky, each one was a different size. I tried to rectify it with a Dremel tool and a belt sander, but it just made things worse. So I ended up discarding the rubbish ones and just kept 2 of the best ones. These are kind of like energy conduits, so they help to propel the energy up the shaft of the weapon to the mace head that's going to go on the end of it. That's the theory. That's kind of how it works. So it's going to be like the staff weapons that General Grievous's bodyguards were using. So they're going to be energized weapons that can block lightsabers at the end of the day. And it's going to look really, really nice. Hang on. See, I've marked with that should go that way. Don't know why, it just need to go that way. There, that's better. I'll rotate it about 45 degrees clockwise there. That's better. That's how it's meant to go. That's better. Right, so the next thing to work on is the end cap, the pommel that's going on the back end. So when that goes in there like that, that's going to look really good as a pommel for the weapon. It actually looks starting to look like a Star Wars weapon now. So the shaft of this is going to be wrapped in gaffer tape until it's a nice tight fit inside there, and then sprayed with glue. Oh yes, that looks nice. That's starting to take shape. That's pretty good as a pommel cap for a weapon. As Star Wars weapons go, that's the right component to use. It looks like the right tool for the job. Now all I've got to do is the mace head. And I'm going to do that in exactly the same way, and then it will be complete. So that's the gaffer tape finished. That entire pipe is wrapped in 3 different places. That's a very tight squeeze inside that shaft. And I challenge you to use those set of words in any other context. You won't be able to. So that will be sprayed with glue and placed inside there, and that will be the construction complete. And that's the construction complete of my Star Wars mace. It's 40 inches long. It's made entirely of plastic pipe, hoover parts, end cap, pipe connector, more pipe, and sludge trap for the mace head. There's no metal components in this whatsoever. It's completely safe for conventions, photo shoots and filming. And it's going to look amazing when it's painted, which I will do next week. It's going to look like an epic Star Wars weapon when it's done. Looks like a model kit right now. Looks like a giant model kit that's kind of been put together, and technically that's how I did it. Right, here's my finished mace. Made to my own design. Here's what it looks like when it's finished. It's all painted up now. The mace head looks pretty good. That's some of the detailing on it. I wanted this mace to have rings going up the shaft of it, so I added these rings to it. The overall length is about the same as a normal lightsaber. So the idea is that a villain armed with this can stand up to an opponent wielding a lightsaber. So the energy emitter there actually looks like a lightsaber energy emitter. I did silver grips. That's part of a hoover. That's just a pipe connector from an old hoover. And I painted it in bright red to signify it's the activation switch. And when you get to the pommel looks just like Rey's staff, the end pieces. That's what it's designed to look like. And I can get more of these, and it looks really good as a Star Wars weapon. I might add some kind of grips to the grips here. I might put some masking tape down in stripes and then paint it black, so it's black and silver stripes, so it looks like it's got like a non-skid surface, so it's gripped. But overall, looks like a really good original Star Wars weapon. Instead of having a villain with a cliched red lightsaber, the villain armed with this instead is something different and unique, something to my own design.